So, who the heck are you? And no, what I'm interested to know is what started the spark of something that became Silbury. You have a story, just like every parent here has a story, and that's what I'm curious about.
Okay, the Silbury story, it started with a group of moms who wanted to make a difference, and because they weren't getting what they needed. And we were within a gifted community, and in the gifted community there was a huge spectrum of kids, and the spectrum dealt with everything from written output to kids that were dyslexic to just social issues and a lot of different other things. And where we had been, none of these things went addressed. And so there was a meeting of about 50 educators and parents that gave actually some really profound ideas, and it was suggested that we hold on some of the ideas. But when you're a mom, holding on some of the ideas was not really a good idea.
What do you mean by hold?
Implement one thing at a time. So implementing one thing at a time, when you have kids that have different needs, you know, it's like saying, well, I'll work on you later, or I'll work on that later. I mean, but then the kid moves on and grows, and he still feels like there's something inadequate about himself. But if it was something that could be addressed, so that would make a huge difference, then why wouldn't you do it now? I guess that's my nature. The passion is to, I mean, I think our role in education is to have children reach their fullest potential.
Right.
And
well, we all say that. So what is it that's different about Silbury and actually achieving that potential?
What's really different, I think, for myself with Silbury is there's two parts. One is, as the director and one of the co-founders, is that when we started, I was not an educator. I was a mom on a mission. Wherever I went, there was nothing that seemed to fit all the needs. And I completely understand that if you're in a system and you have 30 children in a classroom, I don't know how anybody can be expected to deal with ESL, gifted, learning disabilities, dyslexia, you name it. It's too broad of a spectrum. And there's just too many kids. And I think I equate it to going to a cocktail party. If 30 people show up in your door at one time and you're supposed to cater to all the unique needs, I don't know if it's a realistic expectation.
Only some people get the attention of the host.
I've seen it. I used to go volunteer in classrooms, and it's, you know, there are teachers that are skilled to do that. But overall, what we found within the gifted community that seems to mainly show up here is we have both ends of the learning spectrum. So I have genius in some areas, and then I have disabilities. Some of them have dyslexia, some have written output issues, and so their gifts are masked within the regular system, and you really don't see the genius inside of there. So what we've tried to do is now I'm able to look at an assessment that you would get from a psychologist, and over the course of the 5 years we have been able to see what remediation tools actually work.
What do you mean by remediation tools?
Well, I think, you know, when I look...
Can you answer with my question?
What I find with what I would consider remediation tools or different resources that I use is that when you look at an assessment, you look at how a kid actually intakes information. And generally speaking, there's your eyes, there's your ears, there's your senses. And then there's other things that get in the way, like diet or, you know, family issues or depression when kids come in, right? And it's how do we address all of those needs so somebody can relax into the learning and be available to it. And then when I look at an assessment, what often goes undiagnosed in ways, there's usually a grid that talks about something that's visual or auditory or working memory or short-term memory, and these all affect how fast we take information in or the issues. So when I look at an assessment, what I get a lot with the gifted community is a supercomputer with a slow processor. And that can be processing speed, how they take in information with auditory. I get kids who can't handwrite, but there's a multitude of reasons for that. And the reasons for some kids, as we found out, they're seeing double. And if a kid can't read, why would you send somebody to a place to learn to read when actually your eyes aren't even ready to read? Why would you sit a kid in front of a desk doing handwriting lessons when it's blurry, or their eyes don't move together, or they don't track? Why would you make a kid feel wrong when he's doing the very best he can do? That, to me, is a crime. Because the end of the day, what I see here is kids always give their 100%. And the things that show up that get in the way for kids learning, they're avoiding something. And if they'll avoid something, they'll either be angry, they'll either tell lots of jokes, or they'll daze off or retreat. And those are all signals to me that there's something going on that's making it difficult. And that's for our job to look, how can we actually assist a kid to be the best that they can be, and to know where they're at and what can really reasonably be expected for who they are. And then with that, build on the skills, work as a team. We work as a team with a lot of developmental optometrists and audiologists and sensory integration people to see what it is that we can do to enhance. The thing that makes Silbury really, really unique is that we've stayed off the grid. We're not a school, but we provide every outcome there is. And the reason I feel very firmly that we've stayed that way is that we have people who come in and teach in multisensory ways. We have people who come in who are professors. We have business experts. And because they're not the union teacher, we don't get funding. And so if my commitment is to help children reach their fullest potential, then I'm going to take every tool that I have that's available within our community to make sure that those kids have the best that they can have. And that's what I do. So we're not that typical school. We line up with a lot of distributed learning networks, and we provide portfolios so the kids are tracked. They do get grades through the things. We do make the portfolios. It's actually really quite transparent with all the things that we do.
What do you mean by transparent in that regard? Because you're talking about that in context of meeting standards and curriculum.
When people are looking to look at curriculum, every hour of every day is programmed here at Silbury, and that's something that I do. So I take the curriculum apart, I integrate it, I theme base it, and I make sure that I make all the outcomes. So I start with the sciences and the humanities, and from that point of view, and then I also look at the strengths and the weaknesses within the grades. So like our grade 9 is just, they love economics and politics, and they always have. They've always been into debate. The grade 6s and 7s would be no more interested. They're really a creative group. And based on what I see is it's how I creatively bring in what the kids need for their own learning and their own personal development. It's what
So take me a little bit 101. You're starting with an assessment of each kid individually, and you're looking at their strengths and weaknesses, and you're looking at their ways in which they take in information, as you described. And then from that, are you programming something for that cast of kids, basically?
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying? So can you elaborate on that a little bit about how you go from the individual to the group?
It seems as though, for the most part, the kids come in within a grade or so with a sort of a personality. And so I'm able to cater the curriculum to the personality of the class. So
You're talking
within,
about the personality of the group, not the personality of the individual in that reference, right?
they seem to come in a pack, and that's a blessing. But it's, and then again, it's not for everybody all the time, right? So we do have kids come in, and maybe it's not their focus or their passion, but I try to create extracurricular, the enrichment around their strengths. And I think the other thing I do, which I think is really, really important in anything that we do with children, is that, from my perspective, we live in a creative, dynamic universe. And it isn't about regurgitation. It really is about being a dynamic creator in the process of your own learning. So the other thing that I do is, like, when they are doing biomes, or whether they get to create their own creatures, they create their own biomes, they get to create their own understanding within the context of their own creation. They're creators. And I think when we take education and we say it's only about how well you did on a test, that's only being a robot. And that's been proven that people's success in life is not predicated on how well they did in school. I think what's the thing that makes you phenomenal when you grow up is you're able to respond, to look at different people's points of view, to be able to think out of the box, to be able to create. That's what people hire you for. I mean, anyway, that's what